Hello and welcome back. This is our second week of the APUSH Bootcamp, and this is the virtual session for those of you who cannot attend the group meeting. So I'm going to review the weekly goals and the tasks, talk about the questions that we'll be going through for the reading discussion, discuss the practice opportunities that you will have, and then introduce the short answer question and very important terms. So go ahead and read through these week 2 goals. So these are the objectives C, D, and E from the APUSH curriculum, and this is the main goal for the content this week. Now, our last objective is more skill related to understand the structure of the short answer question. So hopefully by the end of this week, you're going to feel really comfortable with understanding the short answer question section of the AP exam. So just as a reminder, the tasks this week were to read pages 5 through 8 of the AMSCO textbook, and then chapters 2 and 3 of Taylor with optional chapter 4. And then your FBI notes, you are just continuing those. You're going to do your postings on Padlet, and please don't forget to reply to your classmates' questions, complete the objectives, and then please also watch the how to write the SAQ video. So when we're in person, these are the questions that we are going to go through. The first 4 are the same as last week, where we just kind of talk in general about the readings. And then last, we really want to dive into those objectives. And here we're going to be looking for, do you have specific evidence? Do you actually have some specific examples, people, places, events that you can use to describe the answers to these questions? Then what we're going to do is we are going to go through a primary source practice again. So each week we'll be going through a primary source. Last week was some artifacts that had been found from American Indian tribes. And now this week is a letter from an African king to a European leader. And so what is happening in this letter is the African king is asking for respect in trade, and especially in regards to the taking of Africans as prisoners and then turning them into enslaved persons. So you want to, while reading this passage, you want to read it and understand it, of course, but you want to think about what is happening in this time period. That's the historical context. You want to think about, who is this being written to, and how does who it's being written to impact the way it's being written? What is the purpose? What is the person trying to achieve? And last, what is their point of view? How does who they are impact the way that they are writing? And then finally, you have your objective to answer. Once again, how does this connect to the objective that we are studying this week? And then here you have a primary source for your multiple choice practice. So what you see here is a image of Hernan Cortez along with La Malinche and an enslaved person and other conquistadors. And this is really showing the conquest of the Aztec Empire. So you want to kind of look and analyze the image and then use that and the historical context that you know to answer questions 1 and 2. So then we'll spend the majority of the time looking at the short answer question. So this is going to be the second part of the exam. You take it immediately after the multiple choice section. It will be 3 questions, 40 minutes, and it will account for 20% of your total score on the AP exam. So the first one is going to be a secondary source and is almost always what I like to call dueling historians. It's similar to what you see here, where you have one historian and a second historian that are providing 2 different perspectives about the same historical development or event. So in part A, you always have to describe the difference between their interpretations. For part B, you provide evidence to support the first historian. And then for part C, you provide evidence to support the second historian. The second question is going to be a primary source. So it most often is an image. I used to say that it always is an image, but in the 2022 exam, it was actually another passage to read. But most frequently, it has been an image. And so this one typically uses perspective or point of view for part A, and then often uses causation, what is leading up to the perspective shown in the image, and then what is the effect of what's happening in the image. So it often is perspective or point of view, and then cause and effect. And then your third question is actually a choice. So you'll be given no stimulus, just a straight question. And the first question 3 will cover periods sometime in periods 1 through 5. And question 4 will be sometime from periods 6 through 9. So here is what you can see those will look like. They often are comparison, although that is not exclusively true. But in the past, that has been most frequently the skill being assessed here. So as you can see here, the third question is from 1500 to 1750, and question 4 is from 1941 to 1980. But both of them are using comparison, a difference, a similarity, and then the effect or impact. And so very similar questions, just a different time period here. So, my top 3 short answer question writing tips is to use evidence and explain it. You're going to be much more likely to get the point if you can have a specific person, place, event, or development that is happening in the time period. However, you can't just name drop. You can't just put it in there and then expect the reader to understand how it is answering the question. You need to explain how it is answering the question. You can answer the questions in any order. For example, on the AP exam, if you feel most comfortable with question 3, start with that one and answer that first. And you also could answer C before you answer A. It doesn't matter what order you answer. And then finally, be direct. 2 to 4 sentences is plenty. You do not need more than that if you are following my tip of using the evidence and explaining it. So the question that we are going through is the 2022 question 3. That's the one we're practicing with. We started it last week. We're going to complete it this week. And it is using the skill of causation. So once again, causation is going to primarily focus on what are the causes, what are the effects, what is the relationship between the two, and then what is the significance. For example, is there one cause that is more important than the others, or is there an effect that was more significant than the others? So we are going to, last week we completed part A here, and now you're going to complete part B, which is looking at comparison, but also it's looking at causation. It's looking at how did 2 Native American tribes adapt to their societies? How was that similar or different? And so you're going to want to make sure for part B and part C, you are actually naming 2 regions or 2 American Indian tribes for both parts here. So, yeah, go ahead and give that a shot. And what you'll find in the link is that I have some practice or some sample responses as well. So you can compare what you wrote to the samples that I provided. So then the last link that I have for you guys today is about the very important terms. So within the curriculum, there are some very specific terms that are listed within the curriculum, and those are the ones you absolutely have to know. And these are essential for success. What I have found in my decade of teaching APUS history and my 5 years of grading AP exams is that students miss points most frequently because they lack evidence. They don't have something specific that they have listed in their responses, or they have inaccurate chronology. So they're messing up the time that things are occurring, and they're name dropping without explanation. And so I have created this playlist on YouTube called Very Important Terms, where I detail the things you absolutely should know within the curriculum. And then I've created this worksheet here for you to put in the definition, some of the details to help you keep the chronology straight, and then also the significance, which is the most important piece here of each term. It's really essential for you to create a disciplined approach to recording and reviewing terms. It's not enough just to think, oh, I hope I remember this, or I wrote it in my notes. You need to be disciplined in creating a list of terms and their definitions and significance, as well as regularly review those terms. That will help you to be so much more successful in this class than a student who doesn't spend time reviewing. So just a reminder for this week, your initial post on Padlet should be done by today and your replies by Saturday. Add to your FBI notes, add to your period 1 objectives. And if you haven't yet, please make sure you watch that SAQ video. I hope that this week is going well, and I look forward to meeting with you or learning alongside you online.